I've had the privilege of being the founder and or CEO at startups in 3 different industries in Silicon Valley: semiconductors, consumer video, and healthcare. I've also had a stint as a professional poker player. And each of these journeys gave me practical perspective into the role that innovation and creativity play in solving hard problems. It also prepared me for what was to come next. It was 2014, a couple of years after my 40th birthday. And I was feeling pretty good about my health. I was not a smoker. I didn't drink more than a glass of alcohol every couple of weeks. I was a competitive soccer player. And I felt good about my food habits. Although I did enjoy my Krispy Kreme donuts and Ghirardelli ice cream sundaes every now and then. And as the blood test results show, my markers were quite good, apart from a maybe higher than expected triglyceride level. So when Sudnya recommended I go for a checkup to the South Asian Heart Center, I thought it was a complete waste of time. But then, is a recommendation by a spouse really a recommendation? I soon found myself at the center, and once there, they ran a slew of tests on me, and lo and behold, I was diagnosed with heart disease. I was at the 98th percentile of calcification of my arteries for someone my age, and someone even remarked I was a walking time bomb. This came as a complete shock to me. I mean, how could this happen to me? It happens to others, not to me, right? And I had to do something about it. And what I did was I went on a very strict diet. No dessert, low carbs, high on protein, fiber, and fat. And as you can see, my markers did improve significantly. Though my heart disease itself was irreversible, at least this slowed down the progress of the disease. Now, this should have been good news, right? But it didn't feel like it. In fact, it was a miserable existence because I could not eat the foods I really enjoyed and wanted to eat. And I had to figure out what to do about it. Now, if living longer was the objective, I sort of kind of achieved it because those 3 months felt like 3 years. And so I had to get out of this pity party state of mind and start to get constructive about it. What can I do about it? So I started with the question, what? What was it that I needed to get better at? And I learned that our lifestyle habits, especially when they're not done well, they lead to what is called a blood glucose spike. And continuous blood glucose spikes, especially happen over long periods of time, cause what is termed as insulin resistance. Okay? Insulin resistance is not a good thing. It leads to a lot of short-term and long-term issues, from something as simple as cravings and fatigue and weight gain to heart disease and diabetes to potentially even some of the cancers. And now recent studies have shown a linkage to Alzheimer's. So I had to figure out how to deal with this. So the next question was how? How am I going to deal with this? How am I going to figure out how to reduce these blood glucose spikes by being creative about my lifestyle habits so that I could have my cake and eat it too, literally, right? And so the way I went about it is I actually put on a number of wearable sensors, a continuous glucose monitor, a blood pressure monitor, a heart rate monitor, and you name the sensor, I had it on. I also tracked all the foods I ate, all the exercise I did, all the sleep patterns and all of that. And I collected this data over an 8-year period. During these 8 years, I continuously ran this data by my team of doctors and my clinical dietitian to ensure that any conclusions I was reaching were both medically and nutritionally relevant. Okay? The last piece of the puzzle was I had to convert these insights that I was gaining from the data into habits I could sustain for the long term. And to make sure I was down the right path, I did a blood test every 3 months. And I did this body composition analysis, which is basically, it gives you a sense for your visceral fat, your muscle mass, and so on. This was to ensure that whatever I was doing was actually helping. And I'd like to share with you a few of the results of the experiments. I ran thousands of experiments on myself. But I want to share a few of them because some of them validated age-old wisdom, while many others turned them on their head. Ice cream, for example. Unsurprisingly, it gives you a large spike. But when I had a spinach salad, followed by maybe avocado toast or a shrimp curry, and then the ice cream, the spikes were much lower. And that was because the fiber from the spinach salad and the fat from the shrimp curry slows down the absorption of sugar into the bloodstream. So, hello there again, Ghirardelli ice cream. I used to frequent this fast food chain, which was supposedly very well known for healthy sandwiches. And I had that for years. Till I realized that it was probably one of the worst things I was doing for myself. The spikes I got from having those supposedly healthy sandwiches was humongous, worse than anything I'd ever seen. And a little bit of digging revealed that the amount of sugar in that bread was so high that in some countries in Europe, that bread has been classified as cake. Okay? So having a sandwich at home is better because you control the ingredients that much better. A 10-minute walk after a meal, always a winning formula. We've been told that from the time we were young, it's still true. I wanted to show this because I think it's a sign of there is more to long-term health than just your blood glucose spikes. For example, I'm a soccer player, but soccer and tennis are both start and stop sports. You run, you stop, you run, you stop. Your liver tends to just pump in glucose to keep up with the energy demands. However, net, playing a sport is a good thing. On the other hand, drinking a glass of scotch, because it has no added sugar, causes no spike. But we know alcohol has a lot of other issues, right? And so the correct conclusion from this slide is not to stop playing soccer and drink a lot of scotch instead, right? And so there were many such things. I put them in place, and as you can see, my blood markers from just a couple of weeks back, a couple of months back rather, have been amongst the best they've ever been. And I did this by eating foods either in moderation or in the right combination, or in a few cases by cutting them out. And when I repeated this in a slightly larger program for 800 other people who wanted to do what I was doing, the markers helped them all. It's early days, but it sounds like there is a way to figure this all out. And so while I may not have impressed my 4th grade art teacher, I think the fear for my health and the pain of having to give up things like donuts and ice cream triggered in me, dare I say, a creative approach to solving the problem.